Hey folks, Steve here with another Deadly Woods video. In this video we will be looking at turn 7, which is the first turn of the second half of the game, where the Allies are firmly in the initiative and will likely have the momentum for the rest of the game. Their objective to reduce the German victory points as low as possible. The Germans currently sit at 3 victory points, so in theory that might not be too hard to achieve, but it will be some tough going to see if we even get that far. It's going to be the tricky thing over the next few turns. We'll see what we get. So, as it happens here, the turn 3 turn is pretty straightforward in terms of the assets and everything else. Right now, I think I'm going to keep all of the engineers where they're at. They've been doing a good job keeping the Germans bottled up and weakened. We will eventually probably move the engineers, but for the moment I think we're in okay shape. With that, the Allies and the Germans really don't have any more asset markers to use. So the Operation Greif marker, the Allied traffic marker is no longer used. The delay chit, the delay unit, is no longer used either. And in fact, the only special rule this turn that we really have to consider is that the US player may hold a reinforcement chit still as of this turn. I'm just going to do a quick check of the rule 14.8.2 to make sure of that. And yes, that is the case. And so from here on out, it's just going to be the basic actions of the turn. The only remaining special rules for the rest of the game are going to be that next turn, a few of these stacks of units that are beyond the Meuse River that I have bingo chits on, these represent units that are locked, can't go beyond the Meuse until the turn comes up where they become released. So they're basically reinforcements that are sitting in wait that would like to come join the fun but currently cannot. That will help shift the balance in the Allies' favor in the turns to come. That will occur on turns 8 and 9, and then on turn 11, there is a special rule where basically the German player has to decide what to do with their SS units. So there's a check to see if the Germans still have a certain number of SS units. They are especially marked. There is a symbol on the top right of the units. Just to show you an example, on the asset markers even, they have them. The top right, the 11 in a black circle, that denotes units that matter. We're going to, at turn 11, we would count how many steps we have. If the number is too small, the Germans automatically lose the game. If it's not, then the German player has to decide, are they going to withdraw those units? And if they do, they only have to hold on to 2 victory points to win the game. If they choose not to withdraw those units, they have to have 3, which is what they have right now. So I think it's certainly going to be a tough decision. You know, what do we want to do? How do we think we're going to keep the game going at that point in time? So these next turns still matter to how well the Germans are going to hold on, where they're going to hold on, and will they have enough to eke out a victory just based on performance rather than a true campaign objective victory. The action chits for the turn, this is actually a bit of a change from the last several turns. Let's take a quick look at these guys. So this is really it. You're going to notice some differences. The Germans don't get reinforcement chits anymore. In fact, they don't get any more reinforcements for the rest of the game. They just get replacement points. I will need to spend out those replacement points, which I'll do in another clip here in a second. I just want to show this difference. So really, the Germans just have their supply checks that they'll always have because they could be out of supply. Regular movement or combat chit, one or the other. And then, two chits, they can be move or combat, but the Germans have to do one of each. The order may be what matters. And then they get this 3 formations chit again. Now before, the 3 formation chit was useful as sort of an auxiliary activation for some pinpoint attacks or maneuvers. Here, for the rest of the game, for as long as we have this chit, it's really going to be more useful as a reaction chit to try to plug some lines or to reinforce a position in small movement where we can't get coverage due to the movement chits either not coming up or have been used already. And that's all the Germans get. They don't get a whole lot. They've lost all of their really good additional activations. All of their momentum is now gone. The Allies, by comparison, get their 2 mover combat chits, and again, they can do 2 moves, they can do 2 combats, they can do 1 of each, that's up to them. They have the Patton/Monty chit, which we saw used to good effect here, and that's a very strong chit that they're going to get for a while. And then they get 1 reinforcement chit this turn, because there is 1 set of reinforcements, but this chit is held in the hand off and away, so the first Allied chit that comes up, we can optionally choose to bring in reinforcements. There's really only 2 batches of reinforcements left to come in for the Allies, 1 for this turn and 1 on turn 10. They're both a stack of 3 units each, and they're going to come in. This turn's will come in F, which is pretty far away from the main action, so isn't critically important that they enter the game. And the other set on turn 10 are going to come in B and C, which is down by Luxembourg and is really circumstantial. That's a fair number of a fair amount of time away from now. So we probably, as the Allies, won't be focused on using the reinforcement chit early. We will probably want to focus on using these because we have an advantage in action to try to make something happen. And I can kind of think of what order the Allies are going to want to operate in. So it is up to the Allies to decide what their first chit will be. I think I may end up have it be their combat chit. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, I suspect these next turns are going to go by very quickly because there's fewer chits. The options will be more limited because there's less decision on what to do. The answers will probably be more obvious than not, and we'll be able to play very quickly, or I'll be able to play very quickly through it, and these videos should be shorter, and I should have to do less off-camera recording or off-camera playing because it is going so much faster. The reinforcements for this turn are 3 infantry for the Allies, 1 armor for the Allies, and then 1 of each for the Germans, so 1 infantry, 1 armor. And I will take myself off camera and figure out where I want those replacements to go. Okay, the replacements were pretty straightforward. The Allies had made sure to replenish various units that are operating in this area. The Germans likewise tried to apply replacements where they could on these lines. Nothing too dramatic. I mean, when you think about it, the replacements are so few that it really does matter over the life of the game how beat up your units are. If the Allies had tried to counterattack too much too early, they could be too brittle to last through the game, and even with their decent replacement rates. Likewise for the Germans, you don't necessarily want to make frivolous attacks, because the Germans especially don't have much to operate with. So definitely, it becomes really important where you put your reinforcements to try to, or your replacements rather, well, I guess in reinforcements too, where you're going to go and where you're going to hold ground with multiple steps, because even with attritional combat, things like BL1s, I mean, at some juncture, BL1s are just fine because the Germans can't replace anything they lose functionally. But okay, we're done with that, and now we would go to the actual chits, and I think the Allies are indeed going to have this be a combat, so that they can basically operate by clearing this area. So the combats are likely just going to be here, and maybe a few other scattered places along the board, but should be a relatively straightforward action here. So we'll be back after that. Okay, here we are after the Allied combat round. We have now completely eliminated these units, which also led to our first fishing out of the third step. So this was a third step of the 11th Division, the B unit, and so just to kind of show, this is the first time it's really happened, so it's maybe worth talking about. So here was a unit, his reduced side. And then when this step is lost, you get the third step, and this is only a 1-step unit. So we had some cases here as those surrounded units were destroyed that we had a defender eliminated, so it didn't matter how many steps he had. Down here, He was down to his second step and had a DR star, so the star means he lost a step, which means he would be down to the single step unit, but then had to retreat through a Zoc, which eliminates the third step unit. So that is armor that is off the board. Now those are not SS units, so the Germans, you know, if you're going to lose some armor, I guess it should be the non-SS kind. But this has really opened up the way for the Allies now to push forward and take advantage of their situation, and this will be great for when the patent chit comes up, which will probably use the patent side and begin to push through and behind, or at least continue to push the Germans through this line here. Other combats that went well, we had some combats in the north, just putting pressure on. So the Allies forced a retreat over here and now have 2 hexes on Houffalize, which is bad news for the Germans for sure. We also forced a retreat around Saint-Vith, so the Allies are pushing through here as well. And some attacks up here just to weaken the German armor a little bit with some BL1 results. So the Allies are definitely taking advantage of the fact that they have enough units that, hey, if you trade a step for step, that advantage, you know, that's better off for the Allies than the Germans, and they can continue to make progress. And look, I mean, the game's going to get shut down pretty quickly here if the Allies can take Houffalize, if they can take Saint-Vith. We may have an early shutout because, you know, once the Allies get those hexes, it'll be really hard for the Germans to get them back. It's feasible that they could, so we won't end the game early or anything. I won't give up, but the situation is looking worse and worse for the Germans as we go. So I think the Allies rolled pretty well. I mean, they were rolling 3s, 4s, and 5s across those combats, so it all went fairly well. I think they're happy with that progress, so whatever other chits come up, I think they're going to be happy with the situation. Case in point, we'll go ahead and pull the next chit, which is a German supply check. At the moment, this guy is back in supply, and everyone else is good to go for supply, so that's a straightforward chit. And we'll pull the next one, and we get the other German supply chit. So this advantages the German in that they can opt to put their guys what would ordinarily be out of supply and still operate, but I'm not sure they're going to have much of an opportunity really to do that. Pulling the next chit comes German move or combat. Well, I think move is probably the right action here, so I will take care of the German move, and we'll come back and see what the situation is at that point. Oh, I should point out, the motorized infantry asset is the one asset that the Germans still have, and I've been moving that shit around. I haven't really talked about it, so I'm sorry for that, but technically they still have that and have been using it. All right, we'll be back. Okay, here we are after the German move, so we've shifted our line in the north to try to not pull all the way back, but trying to straighten the line a little bit at a time. If you're not using road movement, you'd be surprised with as much as there are woods around, it is actually hard to move through, even with armor, or especially because of armor in the woods, obviously. But I think over time, the Germans need to pull back, straighten this line, and try to get the excess units around here, around Saint-Vith, because they are under major pressure, and they need to contain that. Elsewhere, just trying to straighten something out so that we have coverage. We're trying to react to the Allied advance and wanting to be in control of the river crossings here so that if we have to retreat, we can destroy the bridges. But really tough situation for the Germans overall. We'll go ahead and pull the next chit, and we'll see what we get. And we pull it, and it is the Patton or Monty chit. I think in this case we probably do want it to be the Patton chit, because we're going to move. We're going to move our units, and we're going to attack, and we're going to continue to put pressure on the Germans up here. So let me take care of that, and we'll show the end result. Okay, here we are after the third corps push. We did make it to the river line. The Germans retreated across and failed to blow the bridge, so the Allies kind of have control of 2 of the bridges here for the moment, which will help them get to Bastogne. We forced retreats over here, and so right now, you know, the Allies are making progress, though, you know, the rivers now, you know, what was once their defensive perimeter is now the German defensive perimeter. So they're going to keep pushing, but there's a little bit of a log jam that's going to happen here once we get all the way up to the river line and crossing those rivers will continue to be important. We really need to get these guys engaged to keep applying pressure over here as well. But we'll see how quickly the Allies can make use of that. So that's it for that chit. And we'll pull the next one. It could be anybody's chit still. And we pull Allied movement or combat. I do think in this case we have to do movement. We need to chase the Germans a little bit. It should be a pretty straightforward move, and we will get across the river here. So we'll take care of that. Okay, here we are after the Allied move. You can see we're definitely working our way up. We are over the river line. There's a couple of critical choke points the Germans are going to try to hold, but the weight of it all is certainly against them. The Allies do have some trouble with this bridge river crossing being held by the Lehr armor unit, but we're going to keep up the pressure. Something's going to give eventually, and we will eventually get those additional units that are released. That will help a lot as well. I think now that's the last Allied chit, the reinforcement chit we held off is going to go into the cup, and the next chit has to be a German chit either way, and we pull the German combat chit is what this ends up having to be. Now the Germans definitely, because the Allies decided to move up, the Germans can attempt some sort of attack, but their artillery is all used up, so I'm not sure if there's going to be anywhere that really makes sense, maybe here, to try to reclaim that hex. That may be their only real option. So I'll evaluate this. We'll see what Germans can do to make a spoiling attack, and we'll see what happens. So here's the result of the German attacks. BL1 here, they wanted to force them back, but they could not. The Germans actually pushed the Americans back away from Houffalize a little bit, so it is just really dicey where these guys are at right now. But they're going to try to keep defending here. It's really important. This is a really critical area for the Germans to defend. They're doing what they can. So they managed to get away with some combats without too much pain and suffering. They did do a BL1 down here. It was probably ill-advised, but they're just trying to slow down the Americans' ability to push them off that road. So it was worth a shot. It was worth a try. We'll go to the chit cup once more, and we pull the German 3 formation, and I think for this one I may need some time to analyze. We get 1 mechanized, 1 armor, and 1 infantry, and we've only got so many options. We could try to do a focused effort right here to knock these guys back some more. That might be worth it. So I'll take a look, and I'll let you know what we do here. Okay, here we are after the German 3rd formation and the other reinforcement chit. I decided just to play through it. I activated an armor and infantry formations over here. We attacked at 1-to-1 odds, and we actually got a retreat. So we forced the Americans back away from Saint-Vith. That was useful, and I basically sacrificed the mechanized activation, because right now there's nothing I want my mechanized forces to really do at the moment. So that was it. And then the American reinforcements started in F. They are not locked, so they came onto the board out here, and they're going to bring up the rear, I guess, and try to reinforce the Allies. So that is really it for turn 7. Now, with that being said, I think I ratcheted through enough of the turn in a fast enough recording that I think I'm going to go ahead and do turn 8 in this video as well. So let me get things situated for that, and we'll talk through turn 8. Okay, so in looking at turn 8, pretty straightforward thing. Only special rules we really need to care about is that the 6th Airborne way up there is now released, so he can come on down. And same thing with the 11th Armor, these guys that I mistakenly put into action several turns ago, so now they can kind of start zipping their way down the road to help support. And that's really it for special stuff. Now, in terms of replacements. The Allies get 3 infantry, which I think, given the circumstances that we're under now, we'll probably do one up here, and do another one here, and let's see, probably another one here. And for their 1 armor, I think we want to replace that guy. That's my thinking. For the Germans, they just get 1 infantry replacement, so not a lot of options. Certainly want to try to pick a place where that will be most valuable, and I think it's going to make sense to try to make that step here, just to help protect Saint-Vith. And that's it for replacements, and there's not really any asset changing that's worth calling out here, and so it really is going to come down to the action chits for this turn, which is pretty straightforward, all things considered. The chit setup for this turn is even simpler than the last one, and it really is pretty short. The Germans are going to get their move in combat, their supply checks they'll have to deal with, the 3 formation shit yet again, and then the Allies have their moves and combat chits. They have the Patton or Monty chit, and they don't get any reinforcements this turn. As I mentioned before, the next reinforcement will be on turn 10. So this is it. 6 chits per side, and I think the Allies are going to have to pump the gas a little bit in terms of their attacks and assaults. They really need to start making some headway here and get units to the board. So I'm trying to think what would be the best option right now. Some moves would probably be useful. Combat's also probably not a bad call. We could start with a combat, see where that gets us, and then the patent shit could come up, or the move, however which way we want to look at it. So I think that's probably what we're going to do. We're going to have allied combats, and then where those combats are going to occur are going to be along this line here, maybe some small fights around here and along here, and pretty much anywhere along the line we think we can make gains with our artillery. And then everything else will be up to the chit cut to decide. The patent chit will be used maybe after we've created some more breakthroughs, and we can sort of... The formation of this reminds me of World War I with the Axis in this shape and Russia in this shape. So it's, you know, it's like seeing shapes in the clouds. You see things that are like, you know, totally different scale, totally different situation, but the shape just reminds me of World War I game on the East Front. But if the Allies can smash through here and pocket Bastogne, that would certainly be convenient for them. So, okay, yeah, we'll go take care of this Allied combat. We'll load up the cup, and we'll see what happens. Okay, first of all, I apologize for calling the Central Powers the Axis when I was making my reference about the East Front. So, you just heard me say that, and I realized as soon as I was done recording that clip that I said that, and I made that mistake the last time I was playing a World War I game. It's the Central Powers, not the Axis. Come on, Steve. You know your history. I don't know why you gave them confused, right? Anyway, the American attacks, we didn't do as much damage as we would have liked. We had some BL-1s across the board in a few places. Just putting step losses on the Germans is the important thing. We did push back some Germans over here, so we're trying to peek over that line again. But you know, we would have... You know, basically there'll be more action to come, I guess, so not the best attack that could have happened. Maybe we should have done movement first, but I think this was a needed move. So we'll go to the cup and we'll see what else comes out here. We have a German move or combat. I definitely think a move is probably warranted. Probably warranted at this point. So we will... Yeah, I think we've got to do a move at this point. Oh man, we just have to, which sucks because I didn't want to have to do that, but it is going to be needed. So I'll take care of a German move, and we'll come back. Okay, here we are after the German move. So we were trying to get this contained a little bit, set ourselves up for an attack later. Again, trying to manage something of the line a little bit better, consolidating strength in front of the bridge, bringing units over to kind of hold this line a little bit better. And that's the best that the Germans can really do right now, is hold on and hope for the best. They would really like to get some more units over here, but they are needed elsewhere. So we're trying to pull some guys down so we can shift the line a little bit to help protect the area, but it's really tough due to the Zocs. The Germans would love to push these guys out and then knock this armor out of supply, but we just can't quite do it. All right, going back to the cup, and we pull the German 3 formation. Here might be our opportunity to try to make something happen to form a better defense, but it's going to be tricky if we do it at all. There's not a lot of obvious places that I want to be able to operate, and everything that's happening now, I realize I'm separating divisions, I'm screwing up divisional integrity, so all of this is going to get tricky. I don't think there'll necessarily be any real attacks unless we can find something really worthwhile to try. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to be how this works. So we'll be back after the 3 formations are complete. Okay, so the formations I chose were the 15th Mechanized Division, the 116th Armor Division, and the 26th Infantry. And I was able to move units around a little bit to be situated a little bit better. And then this infantry technically also would get to move through, and I just repositioned him here. Well, actually, yeah, this is a safer move. So there's this little bit of a gap. There's a little bit of a problem right here I need to resolve, but at least for the moment, I can hold on and just try to make this a little bit of a saner defense. Though we gave up a couple of hexes to do it, I needed to support this guy or else he was going to get eliminated and Bastogne was going to get opened up. This way, they're at least still within divisional integrity here and here with the mechanized unit, and we can hold on a little bit longer. Okay, going back to the cup, it has to be a United States allied shit, rather. And what do we pull? German supply. Everybody's in supply. So that's it. Going back to the cup, we get a German chit, which it cannot be, so we'll go back. And we have the Patton chit. Now, it could be a decision to, would we rather have the Monty chit go or the Patton chit go? And I think we're going to keep with Patton because we need to keep driving up. So the 3rd Corps will move and then attack. So we'll take care of that here in just a minute. Okay, here we are after the Patton chit activation, and I didn't get as far as I wanted to. We did push these guys back with a DR result, but they managed to destroy the bridge. And then we were trying to attack here. We got a no effect, no result. We got a BL1 over here. So we certainly tried to make some headway, but we just didn't get as far as I would have wanted. I mean, right now, the best thing the Allies can probably be doing is even attack at relatively low odds and force retreats, or get lucky and get some retreats and BL1s. Because eventually the Germans are going to run out of space, so maybe that's just the main strategy they need to keep pursuing. But as it stands right now, the Allies are not making a huge amount of time that they really need to be. They still have plenty of turns to work with, but it is difficult. I'm going to go back to the cup, and we'll see what we get. We got the Allied combat or move. So I do think that movement might be good to do, so we will do movement. And there's certainly combats that are worthwhile. I just need to get these guys in a better shape for a future combat. So a lot of this is going to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Stuff like this is kind of important to make happen. It's going to take all his movement to get across and repair the bridge. 1, 2, 3. Bring him over. He needs to help out these guys. Might as well show you guys what I'm trying to do. 1, 2. Then up north. See, it's like even these one chits, I mean, they just take barely a minute to play through because the options of where to go and what to do are pretty straightforward. There's only so many places left to go. And now we are across this river line, so it's going to be a lot easier for us to act over here. And we're kind of gummed up back here, but it almost doesn't matter. Like, we're just going to keep hammering, and the Germans are going to have to figure out something else to do here. Because we're attaining what we needed to attain, which is getting across this river. Now it's, keep pushing, swallow these guys up, keep pushing, to get into here. I'm sure I just screwed up my chits there, but oh well. Okay, there goes the Allied movement, and now we have the next chit, which is German supply, which is nothing important. And then we have German combat, and it has to be a combat chit. So let me go figure out what the Germans want to do with that. There's a few places they want to try, probably, to attack, just to beat back the U.S., but it's going to be very tricky where they try. So we'll come back with the results of that. Okay, after the German combat, there wasn't much. We hit a couple of places, would have loved to gotten retreats here and here, but we got BL1s. So the Germans are weakened a little bit. They tried to attack over here, got a BL1, got a BL1 here. It was all BL1s, which is actually not good for the Germans. What they were hoping to do is get some retreats and just force the Americans back a little bit so they had a better line in front of these victory hexes, and they just aren't getting what they really needed. They did get a retreat over here, so they're sort of disrupting the Allied position on this eastern river, but it kind of doesn't, like that is not as critical of a sector as these other ones around Bastogne at the moment. So tough call, but that's as far as we got, and that's it for the turn. So we're going to be heading into turn 9 to come. With 4 turns left in the game, the Germans are still sitting at 3 victory points, but they are perilously close to losing some. Just depending on what kind of retreats happen, we could see their position start to collapse. They're feeling the pressure. One thing I forgot to mention as well, when the Allies did their movement, I forgot to move these guys that were released. So I moved them up, and they're approaching the front lines. So you can imagine these guys are going to support over here. These guys are going to plug up in here. These guys will join up over here. And the Allies are just going to have that advantage of a stronger line as they keep hammering away at the German lines. And the Germans just can't replace what they're losing. So every BL1 result is just worse off for the Germans as they go. But that's it. So we managed to, get through two turns in this video, guys. Turns 7 and 8. All in one video because things are moving very fast. It's obvious what to do. The chits are fewer. Makes sense as to what we're trying to achieve. So all goodness for there, guys. So thanks for watching. We'll probably hope to cover turns 9 and 10 in the next video, and then probably turns 11 and 12 in the video after that. So we're just a few videos away from ending the game. And so far, I'm having a blast with this one. This is really fun, interesting. Even if I didn't try a big crazy maneuver out to the muse in my game, the game still feels tense, and neither side is just running away with it. We're just fighting in the edges of what each side is trying to achieve. So that's pretty interesting to see. All right, see you in the next one, guys. Take care. Keep gaming.